Hello and welcome back to my Umbreon Faerie series. If you have already watched the other two videos, if you haven't, then go watch those. They have other information in them. This is the third and final video for an Umbreon Faerie series that I made for katsucon to go with a full evolution fairy group designed by my friend sunsetdragon. Her designs are great, you should check her out. I will link her in the description and also put the design up next to me. This is what I was making. So I've already covered the bodysuit, the leggings, and the shirt in previous videos. So if you haven't seen those yet, you should check them out. So this will be covering ears, flowers, the tiara, jewelry, like the pearls and stuff. I don't really remember what my plan was originally, so let's go back in the past to before katsucon and I can let Past Minji explain to you. When Kit designed this, she not only did what Eevee it is, but she also based them all on actual butterflies or moths, and then she assigned each of them a little flower. I'm working on the flowers right now. I'm following a tutorial from YouTube, so I will link that in the description, but the tutorial uses colored pencil to color it, and so I tried that on a couple of the petals, and then I also tried marker on a couple other petals. Because it is crepe paper, so it's an uneven surface, the colored pencil really only hits the raised parts of the paper, whereas the marker kind of saturates all of the paper and gives it more of a like translucent look, whereas the colored pencil like very obviously like sits on top, which I think would work for some flowers, but I think that I like the marker look better for this one specifically. I need like 10 of them, I think, at least. So materials for this, I've got white crepe paper, I have purple crepe paper. Normally the leaves would be green, right, but because the illustration has the sepal and the petal leaves as purple, I've gotten purple crepe paper. Scrapbooking glue, I chose this because it has a little like pen tip on it. Markers for whatever color your flower is. If it doesn't have a gradient, then you don't really need those. I also have some jewelry wire. You could also use floral wire if your leaves are green, but my stuff is all pretty dark. This is going on a black headband, so I chose black. Also got some black floral tape here. The video that I'm using for reference also had measurements for all of the patterns, so I just used that, but these are the general shapes. This is for all the petals. You cut 5 per flower and then 2 sizes of leaves. These are just cut however many you need, and then 1 sepal per flower. So I'm gonna start cutting all that. To match the colors of the drawing of the flower, I'm using Copic pink powder and blush, so R20 blush and YR00 pink powder, and that kind of gets me these colors. the ears. I was really going back and forth whether I wanted them to look more smooth, like, I don't know, like a seal or something, or if I wanted to make furry ears. In the end, furry ears won out because I have an idea of how to make them, whereas the other ones I wasn't really sure how to do it. We're gonna make some furry Umbreon ears, and I was thinking either I'll add some gold color, like if I can spray paint it, then I'll do that. If I can't do airbrush gold paint, then maybe stick some gold lace on it, or do like Cricut vinyl on the fur. I'm not sure that I really love this, like it really is just sitting right on top of the fur, but I'm gonna get started on these ears now. I just made my pattern really simple to just kind of look like the ear. But when I'm cutting the foam like core of the ear, I'm gonna cut it 1/8 of an inch smaller than I'm gonna cut the fur, just so it's all encased and not visible. Flowers done finally. I'm gonna attach them to this little headband that I made. Ears are gonna go onto a different headband just so if I want to reuse these for a different costume I can. These are gonna get wrapped right around there, I think. The ears are dry now. I've decided that I want to use the gold foil for the stripe rather than, I don't know, airbrushing it or doing lace or something. Airbrushing pigment just did not show up once it was sprayed black, so that was out. And then I don't know where my gold lace is. So we're just gonna go with the foil. I think it looks good enough. It'll match the rest of the costume. Got 2 strips of paper. One is 1 inch and then one is 1 1/8 inch, just because I wanted to see. I like the narrower strip better, so I'm gonna just cut 1 inch strips and put that on the ears. The last part of the headdress, I need to add a bunch of jewelry. The stuff at the top of her head there. There's like pearls and crescent moon and stuff, so I'm gonna be working on that now. I bought some crescent moons off of, I think, Etsy. So they're just like little metal crescent moons, and there's no way to attach them to anything. So I was thinking I'll cut some pieces of felt in the same shape, stuff that into the back there, and then sew like jump rings and stuff to that. These also smell really weird. Okay, that worked like remarkably well. I just filled this with glue and then put the felt like laid on top of the glue, so it's not hollow anymore. It's like got some structure to it. But I literally just stitched this jump ring to the felt, and like it also kind of went into the glue just because it had to. Tried to make sure that the opening was not anywhere near the threads because it'll just pop out. So the opening's down on the bottom there. I know that it might like have a problem with the other things coming out, but like this worked so well. I'm honestly shocked. That looks great. That looks like it was made like that. I'm just gonna do a couple more at like the sides here. I think at the tops maybe. In the drawing it is like a full circle, and then there's some pearls coming out the top of it. Obviously I can't do that because this is not a full circle. I'll do like a string of pearls that goes across it maybe, and then have 2 coming off the side or something, or I don't know, something. We'll figure something out. That went much better than I thought it would. So I'm just gonna put the rest on now. elastic that I used for the leggings and I put interfacing on it so it doesn't stretch, putting a skirt hook and eye on it because I think that's going to be the easiest way to make an attachment. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this series generally. I had a lot of fun making this costume. It was really just a great jump back into making costumes again. Last katsucon, I got super burnt out after making all my costumes and was kind of just slogging through the process and didn't really enjoy it, even though like I'm proud of the costumes that I came out with at the end. I didn't feel like they were my best work and I didn't really enjoy the process of making them. This year though, I did have a better time. I made this Umbreon Faerie costume and then I also made some armor for Chibiusa. The armor did not go as well as the Umbreon cosplay because I do far more enjoy making like corsets, bodysuits, just sewing generally. I enjoy more than armor making. This project I'm really happy to say I am so proud of. I had a great time making it. I had a great time wearing it, even if I was a little overwhelmed at katsucon. I did really enjoy wearing this with the big group. It was a lot of fun to get to cosplay with a big friend group. There were some things that were like challenges that I needed to like figure out and solve problems, but there weren't so many like with Frau that I'm currently still working on where it's kind of like a huge hurdle to get over each new thing. So I feel like this was a really good project to kind of get me back into costuming after my almost year long of burnout. I'm really pleased with how all of the flowers and like the jewelry turned out. Used my same wire base that I use for pretty much all of my like tiara headdresses that have a lot of things mounted onto them. That went pretty much according to plan and how I expected it to do. I might add some horsehair to braid to it eventually so I can pin it in a little bit more effectively. I feel like I say that after I make every one of these and then I just never do. Note for future, Minji, maybe add horsehair braids to all of your tiaras so you can actually pin them in. That is probably the only change I think I would make to the tiara. The flowers I think turned out super well. They look not super like Kit's drawing, I guess, but they look like the flower that she was basing her drawing off of. So I ended up making it look more like the realistic flower just because I was going off of a tutorial for making these rather than constantly referencing Kit's art. So it ended up not looking quite like the stylized version of them, but that's all right. I'm happy with how they look. I think they look like more realistic flowers than like fabric flowers you can get at Michael's or whatever. Also, like I wasn't about to spend $20 a flower for those. I did run into the problem of the flowers being a little bit too long, and so when I put them on the headdress, they kind of stuck out really far and looked very silly when I tried it on. So I did end up just like snipping the heads off of the flowers and then shoving it into like the stem, I guess, so that it cut off about an inch of each of the flowers, and that made everything look a lot more proportional. So I worked really hard to get the proportions of the tiara really spot on, because I knew that that was kind of going to be what made or break whether this costume looked really silly or not. Usually my goal with costumes is that first I want to get the proportion right, and then I want to make sure everything looks good, and then with those things kind of along the way it turns out to look like the drawing, if that makes sense. But I really think that of anything that you should focus on with making costumes, aside from learning the techniques for how to make costumes, getting the proportions correct is going to be one of the biggest things you can do to make your costumes look more professional. I was very proud of myself for how I attached all of the jewelry to everything, like sewing the little jump rings and then having the lobster claw clips connect to everything. I think it's great for being able to like break it down and like take things apart, being able to maybe use things interchangeably for other costumes. I was very proud of thinking to put the jump ring in the bodysuit so that I could just clip the necklace in there and not have it in there permanently. I talked about in my previous video about having all the jewelry kind of like fake bead jewelry and like have them sewn to a mesh illusion top instead, but this was kind of my compromise for that, was that it was still attached in some places but not entirely fixed into place. I did still have some problems with like things sliding around. That's just kind of how jewelry goes. There's only so much you can control in a costume and like in clothing generally, so I'm not too concerned about that. There were a couple things where the pearl strand that I made that goes between like the choker and the top of the moon was a little too short, so that ended up snapping, and I thought that I would fix it while I was there, but I didn't end up doing that because it kind of looked weird how the tension was sitting. So actually letting it hang down was better, and then I think probably I'll just replace that one strand with like a little bit of a longer strand. I figured out that with the overlapping of the pearl strands, I connected it to the center front and then wrapped around to like the side back of the other side rather than having it just go from like here to this side. It made it sit a lot better and didn't let it like fall back and forth a lot. The ears I'm also pretty proud of. Used to make like furry kimono Mimi ears, so it was fun to get to do that again and like get to use all of the supplies that I still have lying around. And I'm really happy with how that gold band turned out. I think it looks really cute. It is probably actually the cleanest way I could have done it. So I talked about doing airbrushing or doing lace or I don't know, other stuff, but I think that doing the strip of the iron-on foil was really the cleanest way that I could have attached it. To make sure that the fur didn't melt at all, I was pretty careful to only touch the iron to the iron-on foil, and then I also used a press cloth. You're supposed to use a press cloth anyways with iron-on foil, but you should use a press cloth pretty much all the time because it's better for your sewing projects. I was also very pleased with myself for coming up with that moon solution where I stuck the filled the glue into the crescent moon and then put felt on it and then stitched the jump rings to it. I thought that was also a very smart solution. I felt like I did a lot of smart things with this jewelry, improvising solutions for the materials that I had because I was only able to find that kind of moon that I really liked on Etsy, or like I didn't want everything permanently attached with the jewelry and stuff. So I felt like I had a lot of really smart solutions and I am proud of myself for coming up with them. So good job, Pass Minji. I think this was probably the most challenging part of the whole costume, whereas sewing is like a pretty like, I can just kind of do it and I don't have to think too hard about solving problems that much. Like there's always gonna be like a couple things like figuring out what to do with the binding on the bodysuit or making the gauntlets and like having everything matched. Like obviously there are always some solutions that you need to come up with for costumes, but I feel like with sewing, I have a lot fewer of those. My big problem with my other project, Frau, is that I'm doing a lot of machine embroidery, and the embroidery machine, I get really overstimulated by the noise, and so that's kind of really been the big hurdle for me. For this whole project, the sewing was like fairly simple. It was one of the less complex designs of the group, so I really lucked out with that. The jewelry was where I had to do a little bit more of the problem solving just because I don't do as much jewelry, so it's not kind of like as much muscle memory or like knowing how the material works, if that makes sense. So that is it. Generally for the whole costume, I think everything came together really well. I'm just very happy with it overall. I think it looked really good. I ended up just putting my hair up in like a kind of slicked back ponytail and then sticking a ponytail extension on it. That was super easy to wear. I didn't have to wear a wig, which is nice. I thought of getting a lace front ponytail wig, and when I looked at them, they all just kind of looked bad. So I decided to go for this instead. And I think it was really the right solution for me because I think it ended up looking a lot like the illustration and it was all just less annoying than the alternative. So that's it for this series. I've got one more katsucon cosplay to show you guys. But yeah, if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions, comments, if you, I don't know, suggestions. If you have any questions specifically about construction or anything, I will try my best to answer those first. I do read all of the comments I get. I just don't always have time to answer all of them. So I promise I'm reading them all. But if you have any questions about construction or anything, or need help with your costumes, whatever, I try to make an effort to answer those. If you like this video and you want to see more, I am kind of getting back into the swing of things with sewing again. I have a bunch of projects lined up for this year. Hopefully I won't be putting myself back into burnout, but I'm just really excited to sew again, and I'm excited that I'm excited to sew again. So I will be having more sewing videos. I'm also going to continue making vlogs and Ren Fair vlogs because I love Ren Fair still. A lot of things that I want to make this year are for Ren Fair, so we're gonna continue with Ren Fair. Yeah, vlogs, sewing videos, I have some fashion video ideas that I want to do. So if you like any of those things, then please subscribe. And I don't know how much Baby Bat made it into this video today, but if you like seeing cats and sewing, then subscribe for that as well. That does happen fairly frequently on my channel. So I hope you guys have a really great day, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I also hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye!